as convinced as I was that day, going out in 1998, that we were going to win it because we couldn't lose it. And Padjo in the dressing room didn't take centre stage. He let kind of some of the older guys, I can remember myself, Johnny, Brian would have been very vocal, but we got around to the likes of the Paul Carrolls and the Niall Claffeys and that kind of thing, and it was basically, this has to be won. You know why it has to be won, and it was kept out of earshot of Joe. And it was just an amazing feeling because you knew from a long way out that you were actually going to win it. And when the final whistle went, you know, I suppose it does bring home to you what a parish team and what a town team actually means, because it was so emotionally charged. Like, I'll never forget the dressing room afterwards, you know, with Joe and Martin Erity there. It was just a weight of relief after winning that game. So whilst as a youngster my ambition was to win an All-Ireland with Offaly, nothing ever touched winning the 1998 Club All-Ireland final. It was just an amazing feeling.
The hallmark of every team is the unsung hero, and there was a huge amount of unsung heroes. You
Flossie.
know, Dahi mentioned
Flossie
them already.
was outstanding.
Flossie.
Flossie was great bit of
Flossie
stuff.
was unbelievable. And, you know, the Birr club team was a club team of stars. And, you know, there's one thing my father used to always say to me. He says, Ken, the best team will always win. And, you know, by winning 4 All-Ireland club titles, Birr, to me, remained the greatest club team of all time.
You're speaking there of the Cushendall game that back in 91. I can always remember the late Peter Pardy and Toby going up and the knitted jumpers that their sister knitted them, and they swapped them with Cushendall supporters up there. But I always remember the dirtiest Birr game I was ever involved in was another Wexford team, Owler to Balla, in 1994. We drew with them down in Nolan Park, and Peter had a habit of picking rows with bigger people, and he picked a row with a Wexford fella in the stand that day, and basically told him to stick to selling your strawberries and called him kind of all sorts. And Toby was beside him, and your man turned around and decked Peter during the second half, and Peter turned to Toby to look for help, and Toby looked at your man and went kind of, no, you're on your own on this one. But
I remember him cycling down. We were great friends and great neighbours and Susan. And I remember cycling down just a few weeks before he died. And I hadn't met him since the county final. And he was cycling down, the legs were going, 90 to the minute. And the next thing I was out cutting the grass, and he looked in at me and he shook their face at me and stayed going like a rocket.
Great character.
Huge character in Birr.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, I think it's fairly easy. My mum and dad were probably the main instigators in my career, and my dad obviously hurled all his life at Kildare, but just moved inside the border of Birr then, and we went to the national school in town. And once we got there, I can remember being introduced to it in school. I think it was first Brother Niles when we were there, when we were maybe in first or second class, but then after that, Brother Vincent brought it to a whole new level. The skill that he taught us, and the intensity, and the attitude that he gave us towards hurling.
But the passion that he still even has for the game. When you talk about when you just talk about those times, the teams he was over, you can still see the twinkle in his eye, and he going back over all the games. He has never lost that enthusiasm for the game, I think, that he instilled in us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he actually made it a joy to go training.
We had huge success in the school, and I always remember those black and white jerseys that we always wore. Going on from there, then I think I might have won maybe 1 or 2 under-16s, and that'd be about it. But I mean, I think at that age and those teams growing up built something huge for the future, because we all hurled together. We were used to hurling together.
Frank Bergen was a selector and had always been the senior selector with Porricorn. They were given a team meeting the week of the final, and it was Frank's turn to speak. And while he was speaking, everyone knew he was building up to something, but he was always checking over to see was Brother Dennis paying attention and looking. So as you all know, the seniors that year would have been doing the leaving cert sometime later on. So he was going on And he was getting across the point of how important it was to win this final after losing last year to Northmont, and we had them back again in the final. And he says, lads, this is the most important game, and actually, lads, it's more important than the Leaving Cert. And with that, Brother Dennis looked across.
It's a game that sticks out vividly in my mind. Clarine had a good side at the time. The Dooleys were there, Connorses were there. There was really Coughlin's were there, you know. And I was going through then with a ball in the midfield. I got to the 45. I was getting up near the 21, and not sure who came to meet me, but he slipped in front of me. I just hand passed it into Brian. Oh, here's a point. This is going to be the winning score, you know. He threw it up, hit it, and didn't hardly hit it 20 yards. So it was deflected out for a 65 anyway. So back I had to go anyway, back down and take this 65. I'd been taking all the frees. So standing over at the next minute, all you could hear, get away, I'm taking this. Paddy Curran was in goals. He was coming out from the goals. Go on, get away, I'm taking this. So he came out, lo and behold, I had to step aside and took it over the bar. The rest is history then.
History. There was a lot of expectation of that team, and to finally deliver, and I suppose to win by a point, it's as good as 10, as they say, but it's definitely heart-stopping stuff, and the town just went mad for that week, you know. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
We went up to play Moorfield. First 2 balls that went into Paddy were 2 goals. We put up a huge score afterwards, and that was our first game, and probably just as well was our first game in Leinster that year. But we went on the following game to play Buffers Alley. My father was coming around the back of the goals, and we were leading maybe 4 or 5 points late in the second half, and he said to me, he says, you take Tony Dorn. Right, this would have been a hurling idol, and someone, you know, we would have gone to see over the years. But I'll never forget how big a man he was. I just thought, this is the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. And I was going to say, how am I going to take this lad? And he put his arm around me like a father would to a son. He says, don't worry, son. He says, I won't go near you at all. But he actually retired in the dressing room afterwards. Said that was his last game for Buffers Alley.
Shamrocks in Leinster final, possibly for me one of Birr's best displays of all the teams that I've been involved with. That day we just completely outran them. Team of the great Fennelly brothers, and they'd won I don't know how many Leinster titles at that time, but just that day in Portlaoise, everything just went for us, and the determination that was shown there, and it was really the coming of age probably of a lot of lads. Cushendall was a tricky assignment going up there, but I think actually the whole town got a great buzz out of going up. Like, people went up the night before, there were busloads going, and like as a typical Antrim team, they never feared anyone coming up from Offaly, and made it really tough for us. But the other matches then were a draw, wasn't it? With Cashel Kilcormac, then in Kiltormer was a draw, went to a replay, was a draw again, went to extra time, was a draw, and then they had three matches when we were sitting back, you know, trying to get ourselves focused. Probably stood to them in the long run, you know.
Definitely the 3 games brought them to a new level, and we went back, and
you know, we didn't hurl well on the
we
day.
Didn't hurl well. No,
you know, there's no point in saying any different.
Well, to win your first,
yeah,
definitely. But to win it the year Offaly won the All Ireland, and I'll never forget the late John Pilkington. The day we beat Limerick and we were back into Davenport, and I remember coming down from getting changed up in the room, and John was a man of few words, but he just turned around and he said, now for the county. And I was thinking to myself, well, we'll celebrate this first, you know.
And don't forget, we hadn't won a county title since 91 either, like, you know. So it was 3 years, and from 94 it was 3 more years again, you know. Like, and you talk about the good teams and good players we had, there was still a 3-year gap between the first 3 county titles that we won. But I suppose the thing that stands out is once we got out of our county, we really progressed.
We went and we played the Munster champions Kilmallock, you know, and there was even great rivalry that time, not even so much between the 2 clubs, but
between the 2 counties.
Yeah, between the 2 counties, Limerick and Offaly meeting again, and then the fashion that Birr beat Kilmallock in the last 5 minutes, a correlation to the way Offaly beat Limerick. Half time, we were after hurling with the wind and 4 points down against this Antrim team, and things looked terrible.
Yeah.
Things absolutely. There was a few harsh words said at half time by both players and management and everything, and they went 5 points up. But in fairness, the team dug deep and worked very, very hard, and slowly but surely we got back into the game, and I think we were so relieved.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
That we got
out of jail, basically.
We got out of jail because, you know, we came out the next day and won well. I remember when he took over in '97, we were sort of at a bad place at that time in Birr, and I think when he took over, he actually realised that a certain code had to be brought in to the players. A lot of indiscipline had started to creep into that team. The way he felt was you have to start as you mean to go on, and that this indiscipline had to go. And the one thing I got from these young lads coming in, I saw and I felt that there was a huge hunger in them, because they were actually the total opposite of our team when we were growing up. They had won nothing.
I suppose I didn't start the match in '94, so for me it was great to get a start in an All-Ireland final. But I suppose the one striking thing, while it was a great honour for us with Offaly, I mean, I think the Birr guys between them contributed about 2-7 or 2-8, you know, with taking Johnny into account, which was a huge achievement for ourselves. We went to a replay and it went to extra time, and we just came out on top, I suppose. For me, I've a few abiding memories of that day and the way things sort of panned out, even just before the game started. I remember I could see my sister running around the side of the pitch, and I just said, "Geez, what's sort of going on there?" And that was it. Pass no more remark or whatever. The match went on. As I say, draw after normal time, and eventually we came out on top.